So you're calling it a virtual draft, or people, I guess, are calling it a virtual draft. But you're talking to people who are doing the draft. They don't think there's anything virtual about it. This is as real as it gets, Peter. How is it going to work? That's something that you also shed a light on, again, with Thomas Dimitroff of the Falcons in your column.
I mean, you mentioned what you just said. Two general managers, including Tom Telesco of the Chargers. Telesco said to me, they're calling this a virtual draft. I don't get it. It's the real deal. There's nothing fake about this draft. We got to live with this. We got to live with our decisions. So, yeah, the draft is going to be done differently. Obviously, it's going to be done virtually. But, Rich, there's going to be 3 different ways that a general manager is going to be able to call in his pick. And really, one of the coolest things, and I'm just getting used to. I never heard of Zoom a month ago, but one of the coolest things that I was able to do. I've been trying to get Thomas Dimitroff on my podcast, and I asked him on Friday, "Hey, let's do Zoom." And so he said, "Okay," and he said, "Look, I'll call it up on my phone and I'll give you a little tour." So the first part of the conversation I had with him was he was sitting out by his pool. And we were just talking about the draft and how it was going to go. And then he said, "Hey, let me take you inside." So there's like 7 minutes of Thomas Dimitroff showing Atlanta Falcons draft headquarters, on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And if you go onto my column and click on the video at the top of the column, you will be given a tour of exactly how one team is going to draft. And just so that you understand the mechanics of it, what will happen essentially is that there will be 3 different ways you can do your pick. There's a private encrypted channel on Microsoft Teams that is going to be the preferred method of teams to draft. So, somebody could go on that channel and inform the league. Ken Fiore, who will be on Long Island at his home, he will be at ground zero of basically moving the draft along. And they can inform him either that way, or they can pick up the phone and call Ken Fiore and tell him, "Here's our pick." Or finally, you can go on a secure conference call, unmute your line, which will be active for all 3 days of the draft, just continuously. It'll never hang up. You can go on that call and literally say, "This is John Doe of the Atlanta Falcons. We select Tua Tagovailoa with our first pick." So that is basically it. There's, as the NFL has said from the start, there will be multiple redundancies in how exactly you can draft.
That said, what is the biggest concern you've heard from evaluators and drafters?
I don't really think there's a lot of concerns other than I think most people, like Ron Rivera told me something really interesting. He said, "Look, we're figuring out what sort of our line of demarcation. When it gets to like maybe the 3-minute mark or 2-minute mark, we're getting off the phone and we're going to just be concerned with getting our pick in." He said, because the last thing we want to do is screw up the delivery of the pick and have somebody jump in there. And I don't believe the NFL is going to allow that. I think the NFL is going to be understanding of some of those issues. But I think it probably is going to cut down, not massively, but I think it's going to cut down the number of trades in the draft.
Just because people don't want to attempt it, or
they're not going to be used to this, and especially once it gets to be rounds 3 through 7 or 4 through 7,
right?
And you only have 5 minutes. When you're on the clock and your phone is lighting up, or there's somebody on Zoom on your staff who's getting a call for another team, and then you got to talk, it might be a little bit too much for some teams to handle. I think, as one team told me over the weekend, Rich, especially when shorter period of time, we're going to have to be working. If we have pick number 210, once it gets to 203 and 204, if we know we're going to want to trade back, we got to move aggressively at that time to try to do so.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.